will now talk about local variables. Previously, we've already been talking about variables, how to declare them, and how to use them in our C++ program. But now that we've already talked about functions, it's also important that we understand what local variables are and what variable scoping is. Let's first understand variables declared in a function. We must understand that they are local to that function, meaning they cannot be used from outside the function, which means they only have the function as their scope. On the other hand, variables declared in the main part of a program are only local to the main part of the program, which means they cannot be used from outside the main part, which also means that they only have the main part as their scope. Here's an example. In this case, we have the following variables. As you can see here, we have the variable named average p. As you can see, it is declared in the main part of our program. And also, if we will take a look at our function definition, we have another variable with the same name. But of course, each of these variables have different scopes, which means that this particular average p variable only have the main part of our program as its scope, and it is completely different from the average p variable that can be found inside our function estimated total. Which means if we are going to run this program, the value that is provided into this variable through this cin statement will only be used in this scope, which is within the main part of our program. On the other hand, the average p variable that is also assigned with this value will only be used within the scope of our function body and is completely different from what we have in the main part of our program. Thus, if we are going to run this program using the following input, this is the output that it will give to us. But of course, I would like you to try this sample program for yourself using different sets of input so you can see how it works, as well as for you to understand how local variables and local variable scoping works. As opposed to local variables, we also have what we call global constants. When we say global constant, this is available to more than one function as well as the main part of the program, which means it has a wider scope compared to a local variable. Global constants are declared outside any function body, and it is declared outside our main function body. And of course, it should be declared before any function uses it. For instance, we have the following example. We declare the following global constant, which will be used all throughout our program. And of course, we have the following functions. With this declaration, it is expected that the constant pi will be available to the entire part of our program, which includes our main function as well as the volume function that we have here. Let's take a look at this example. In program 3.11, we declared the following global constant, pi, and is assigned with the following value. As you can see here, we have the following functions as well as our main function. As you can see here, in the definition of our functions area and volume, they use the same global constant, pi. Of course, whatever value was assigned in the initialization of this global constant, the same value will be used all throughout our program. Specifically, in this part where each function used the global constant. Since this pi was declared as a global constant, this will be visible to every part of our program, such as the function's area and volume. And whenever we call this function, the value that is stored in this global constant will be readily available. Again, I would like you to try this for yourself and see how it works. Next, let's talk about global variables. Global variables are rarely used when more than one function must use a common variable. In the previous example, what we had there was actually a constant. In the case of global variables, they are actually declared just like a global constant, except the keyword const is no longer used. It generally makes programs more difficult to understand and maintain. Therefore, we must use global variables with caution. Let's relate formal parameters and local variables. If we will recall, formal parameters are actually variables that are local to the function definition. They are used just as if they were declared in the function body, and we provide the value for them in the form of arguments every time the function is called. We must not redeclare the formal parameters in the function body, since they are declared in the function declaration. And we also have the concept of call by value, which means when a function is called, the formal parameters are initialized to the values of the arguments in the function call, such as this one. As you can see here, we have the following arguments passed to the function phi whenever it is called. But of course, the value of minutes is not changed by the call to phi. As we can see here, we have another variable which was declared as a local variable within our main function, which will be passed as a parameter or as an argument to the function phi whenever it is called. And if We will take a look at the function definition. We also have a local variable called minutes worked, which is declared as a local variable initialized to the value of minutes, which means whatever is the value of the local variable minutes, that will be passed on as a parameter to our local variable inside our function definition, hence initializing it to that value as reflected in our argument the moment that the function fee is called. If we are going to run this program with this set of input, this is the output that will be produced. Again, I would like you to try this for yourself and see how it works. And of course, remember to use another set of input to see how it's going to produce the output given the input that you provided. Now let's talk about namespaces. In the previous chapters, we've already seen a lot of examples which featured namespaces, although we still haven't discussed what they are and how we can use them. Talking about namespaces, it is worth noting that the start of a file is not always the best place for this particular statement. For example, we've seen this a lot in our programs that we have shown a while ago. The statement which says using namespace std. Actually, different functions may use different namespaces. Therefore, we can place this inside the starting base of a function. For example, this would allow the use of different namespaces in different functions, just like this one. In this case, we place the namespace in our main function. And also, we can make it local to a function, just like this one. So these are some of the ways that we can use namespace local to our main program as well as local to our functions.